Snow moved like white smoke across the empty plain, and the wind pushed it into long waves that hid the ground and the rocks and any sign of life. A small team of humans moved through that cold world with slow steps and steady breath. Their suits hummed and their visors fogged and cleared again, and every sound felt far away in that wide, quiet. Mark walked in front with a scanner held close to his chest. He read the soft pings and watched for any hint of metal or heat. Anna walked a few steps behind him and kept her eyes up for shapes in the storm. Both of them knew the rules of this world. Stop moving, and the cold will claim you. Keep moving, and maybe you live. But today they were not here to map a ridge or test a tool. They were here because a weak distress sign had flickered on their board and then gone dark like a candle in wind. The air had a bite that pressed through suit layers and reached the skin. Every breath felt like glass. The storm rose and fell in angry sighs. Mark lifted his hand and signaled a halt. He watched the scanner again. There was nothing for a long moment, then a skip in the line. A tiny rise that could be a trick of ice, or could be a life. He took 3 more steps and the signal sharpened. Anna moved beside him and spoke in a low voice that the wind tried to steal. She said, "There is something under us, deep but not too deep." Mark nodded and pushed his glove into the snow. It felt soft at the top and hard below, like layered stone. They dropped to their knees and began to dig, slow at first to save strength, then faster because hope makes hands move. The snow was light, but it kept falling back in. They pulled it away with small shovels from their packs and threw it into the wind. A hollow formed, then a pocket, then Anna's glove touched fabric. That was not human. She froze, her eyes wide, and brushed the snow aside with care. Beneath the white lay a thin blanket of alien fiber, pale blue and cracked with frost. Under the fiber was a shape curled small, like a child hiding from a storm that would not pass. Mark pressed 2 fingers where a neck should be and felt nothing. He pressed the side of his helmet against her chest and listened. At first there was only the scream of the wind and the drum of his own fear. Then something faint like a whisper, a slow, shallow rise and fall. A breath that could break at any moment. He looked at Anna and she looked back, and he could see the same thought burning in her eyes. Someone left this girl to die. The face under the thin frost was not like a human face, yet it held a kind shape. Soft lines marked the brow and cheeks. The skin had a pale glow beneath the blue ice. The eyes were closed and the lashes carried small white crystals. The lips were almost colorless. The hands, with long narrow fingers, clutched the edge of the blanket like it was the last piece of warmth in the world. She was light in Mark's arms when he lifted her, too light. The kind of light that tells a story of hunger and days without shelter. Anna pulled a thermal wrap from her pack and wrapped it around the girl. She switched the wrap to full, and it began to hum with gentle heat. Mark checked their map and saw a ruined outpost marker half a ridge away. The storm swelled again and slammed into them like a wall. The path ahead vanished, but he knew they could not stay in the open. He drew a line on his visor and set a heading. Anna took the lead to break the wind for him while he held the girl tight against his chest. Every step took strength that he could not spare, but he kept moving because he felt that faint breath like a promise he did not want to break. They reached the ridge and found the old outpost half buried. The door was ice shut. Anna used a heat cutter to trace a thin path and kicked the crust free. The door opened with a cry like rusted metal. Inside was dark and still and dry. Dust lay on the floor like old snow. The room smelled of old plastic and cold iron. They sealed the door against the wind, and the silence felt heavy and kind at the same time. Mark laid the girl on a bench. He turned the wrap to cycle and checked her again. Her skin was still too cold. Her breath still thin. The small hum of the wrap would not be enough. He looked around the room and found a dead heater in the corner and a broken power line that hung like a black vine. There was no help in the walls. The outpost had slept too long. Anna came close and opened the med kit. There were gels for frostbite and patches for shock. She warmed a gel in her hands and placed it against the girl's neck and chest. A soft color returned, but then faded again. The wind outside hit the walls in long waves, and the sound shook the floor. Mark watched the girl's face and felt time slip. He saw the small tremor in her fingers, and the way her lips tried to form a sound and failed. He thought of the distress sign. He thought of whoever had placed her under the snow. He thought of the kind of fear that drives someone to hide as the world turns white around them. He felt anger rise, and he felt sorrow rise with it, two fires that did not fight each other but gave him strength. Anna spoke again, in a voice that was calm and steady. She said her core is too cold, and her body cannot hold heat alone. She said the only way to save her now is to share warmth, skin to skin. It is not medical training, it is simple life. Like two hikers share a sleeping bag in a long night, like a mother holds a sick child close. Mark looked at the girl and then at Anna, and he did not hesitate. He nodded and said, "Do it," and the words felt like a promise he would keep until the last light faded from the sky. They opened their suits at the chest and arms, just enough to press warm skin to the wrap and to the girl's cold body. The air inside the outpost was still cold, but their bodies were warm and alive. Mark held the girl against his chest, and Anna wrapped her arms around both of them and sealed the wrap tight. For a moment there was no change. Then a small sigh left the girl's lips. It was so light that they almost missed it, but it was there. A sign that life still wanted to stay. Minutes stretched long. They breathed slow and deep to keep their heat steady. The outpost light flickered as a small backup cell woke, and then went dark again. The wind outside fell and rose like a tired giant. Mark kept his eyes on the girl's face. He saw the frost melt from her lashes and run down like tiny tears. He felt the chill in his own shoulders and pushed that feeling away. He thought of warm rooms and old stories where people do not leave each other to die in snow. He thought of the rule that his own people carried across every hard world. "We do not walk past a life that can be saved." Anna spoke softly to the girl and told her she was safe now. Her voice was gentle and simple. Like a song without music, she said, "You are not alone. You are with friends." She said, "We will stay as long as it takes." She rubbed the girl's back through the wrap in slow circles, and the color in the girl's cheeks grew a shade deeper. It was not enough yet, but it was better than silence and blue skin. Mark asked himself how a young one like her ended up under the snow. He looked at the blanket and the thin fiber that had cracked under the cold. It was not gear for a storm like this. It was more like something grabbed in haste. He pictured feet running and breath turning to white mist. He pictured fear behind her and no safe place ahead. His jaw tightened and his grip closed a little tighter. Not to hold her like a weight, but to hold her like a promise. Time moved in slow steps. They counted breaths because there was nothing else to measure. One by one, rise and fall, rise and fall. The girl twitched and made a small sound. Not a word at first, just a sound like a dream. Mark lowered his head so his ear was near her lips. Anna leaned closer and watched. The sound came again and shaped itself into a broken whisper that the wind could not steal inside these walls. He heard a single word, soft and full of fear and hope. And it told him everything he needed to know about why she had been buried in the snow, and why she still held on to life with the last of her strength. Help. The storm outside grew wilder, as if the world itself wanted to swallow the small outpost whole. Snow slammed against the walls with such force that the iron beams groaned like tired animals. Inside it was still, but the cold crept through every crack. Mark and Anna kept their bodies close around the alien girl. The faint whisper of help still echoed in Mark's ears, and he refused to let it be her last word. Anna checked her breath. Again, it was shallow but steady. Each rise of her chest gave them hope, though every rise also carried the fear that the next one might not come. They both knew the wrap would lose charge soon. The hum was already weaker, and without it the girl would be naked against the cold. Mark said, "We cannot stay like this forever. We need a better way to warm her." Anna searched the room. She found old crates, empty fuel cells, broken heaters, all useless. She smashed one crate and pulled out sheets of insulation. Not much, but enough to line the corner bench. They moved the girl there and wrapped her tighter. Anna rubbed her arms briskly, trying to push life back into her limbs. Mark leaned close again, his chest pressing warmth into her. He felt her shiver, and for the first time that night he smiled, because shivering meant her body was fighting again. The girl stirred in her. Eyes fluttered open, not fully, just small slits showing faint silver irises. She looked confused, as if she was lost between dream and waking. Her lips parted, but no clear words came, just broken sounds. Mark hushed her gently, telling her not to waste strength. Anna whispered too, promising she was safe. The girl blinked slowly, as if trying to believe what she saw, then drifted back into shallow sleep. Mark and Anna exchanged looks. Questions swirled between them. Who was she? Why was she here? And who had left her under the snow to die? The silence in the outpost was broken when the wind outside shifted, carrying a new sound, a long-distant howl like machinery echoing through the storm. Anna frowned and peered at the sealed door. She said, "Someone is out there." Mark stiffened. He thought of the distress beacon. He thought maybe whoever left her might return to finish what they started. He told Anna to dim all lights. They sat in darkness except for the weak glow of the wrap. Mark pressed his ear against the wall. The sound grew clearer. Heavy footsteps crunching snow. Too heavy for just the storm. Anna gripped her small rifle tighter. Mark readied his sidearm, but neither wanted to fight. Their mission was survival and keeping the girl alive. The noise faded for a while, and the storm covered it. But both humans stayed tense. Mark felt the girl stir again. Her lips moved, and this time a word formed. "Hunted." Anna froze. She leaned closer and asked, "Who is hunting you?" But the girl drifted back before answering. Mark felt cold run through him. That had nothing to do with the storm. Hunted meant danger near. Hunted meant the footsteps outside were no accident. He whispered, "We must be ready." Anna nodded, though her eyes betrayed fear. Not for herself, but for the fragile life in their arms. Hours passed like slow drops of water. The storm howled and slept and howled again. The outpost groaned, but held. The girl's breathing grew stronger little by little, her hands no longer limp, but twitching as if she was fighting her own memories. Mark wondered what kind of enemies would throw a young one into the snow. He thought only cruelty or fear could do such a thing. He thought of human history, times when the weak were abandoned, times when the strong looked away. He promised himself silently that he would not be part of such a story. Again Anna dozed in turns, but kept waking to check the door and the girl. Mark stayed awake. He felt the weight of duty heavier than the cold. At one moment, he pulled back slightly, and the girl whimpered. A sound like a child frightened in sleep. He pressed her closer again, whispering words he barely knew, saying, "You are safe now," saying, "We will not leave you," saying, "Hold on." And though he did not know if she understood, her breath eased and she settled against him. Anna watched quietly and thought not of soldiers or orders, but of family, of warmth shared, not because it was easy, but because it was right. Morning never came on this frozen world, the sky always gray and storm-filled. But time moved, and by what their visors measured, it was near dawn cycle when the wrap finally lost its charge. The hum faded and the heat slipped away. Cold poured back in like a thief. Anna cursed under her breath, and Mark pulled the girl tighter. Their own body warmth, now the only shield. They needed to move. The outpost could no longer protect them. Anna checked her map and found another marker deeper in the valley. An old relay station, half a day's walk. She said, "If we can reach it, we may find real heat and power." Mark looked at the girl, and then at the sealed door. He asked if she could survive the journey. Anna hesitated, then said she must. Because staying is death. They prepared quickly, wrapping her in every scrap of insulation they could find, binding the fabric tight with cords. Mark carried her in his arms while Anna secured their packs. They broke the ice seal on the door. A wall of snow spilled in. The storm outside had calmed a little, but the air was still full of sharp wind. Mark took the first step out. The snow crunched under his boots like brittle glass. Anna covered him from behind. The girl was light, but each step felt heavier with the weight of choice. They walked into the white void, the outpost fading behind them like a tomb. The journey was slow and cruel. The valley floor uneven, wind biting, snow blinding. Mark kept his eyes down to protect the girl from flying ice. Anna scouted ahead, finding safer paths. The girl stirred sometimes, whispering broken words, fragments of fear, fragments of names they did not know. When she whispered no again and again, her body shivering even in sleep, Mark whispered back, telling her, yes, you will live. Yes, you are safe. And though she did not wake, her breathing calmed halfway across the valley. The sound returned. The heavy steps, this time closer. Anna stopped and raised her hand. They crouched low behind a ridge of ice. Through the haze of snow they saw shapes moving. Tall figures in dark armor, their eyes glowing faint in the gray. The figures scanned the ground with long devices that hissed, hunters. Mark knew it at once. The girl's words were truth. Anna looked at him with alarm. They both knew if the hunters found them, they would not survive a fight. They waited in silence as the figures passed slowly, their movements careful, their heads turning side to side. One of them paused and seemed to sniff the air. Mark's heart pounded so loud he thought it would echo in the snow. He held the girl tighter and prayed she would not stir. Anna gripped her weapon, though she knew firing would mean death. After long, tense minutes, the figures moved on, their shapes swallowed by the storm again. Mark exhaled slow. Anna whispered, we must move faster. Mark nodded, his arms aching, but he lifted the girl higher. He would not stop. The rest of the journey stretched endless. But at last the dark outline of the relay station appeared. Half buried in snow but still standing, Anna hurried ahead and forced the hatch. They stumbled inside, sealing the cold out. Mark laid the girl on a bench, her skin still pale, but her breath steady. Anna found an old power cell still glowing faint and forced it into a heater unit. Warmth filled the room in slow waves. Mark sank to the floor, exhausted but alive. He looked at the girl as her face softened under the heat. Her eyes flickered open again, this time holding his gaze longer than before. She whispered a word, clearer now. The same word as before, hunted. Then her lips formed another, please. Before she drifted into sleep again, Mark stared at her, at the thin figure that had somehow survived where no one should. He knew now that their journey was not just about saving her from the cold. It was about saving her from those who wanted her gone. And he also knew that the storm outside was not their greatest danger anymore. Relay Station hummed with weak power, and the air inside was a little warmer than the frozen valley outside. Yet the tension between Mark and Anna was heavy like stone on their backs. The alien girl rested on the bench, wrapped in layers of insulation, her breathing deeper, now her skin showing more color than before. Mark watched her face every few moments and saw life slowly pulling back into her body, but fear still lingered in her expression. Even in sleep, her hands twitched as if she was running in dreams. Anna paced the room, her boots tapping the metal floor. She said, the hunters are close. We cannot stay here too long. Mark nodded, but did not move his eyes from the girl. He felt the weight of her whispered word, hunted, echo again in his mind. She was not just lost in the storm. Someone wanted her gone, someone dangerous enough to leave her too. Freeze. Anna checked her rifle again and reloaded the last 2 cartridges she carried. Their supplies were thin. Their strength was thinner. Mark finally stood and walked to the window slit. He looked out into the white haze and saw nothing but snow drifting, yet he felt eyes in that storm watching. Hours passed in restless silence. The girl stirred again this time. Her eyes opened wider, silver irises glowing faintly in the dim light. She tried to sit, but her body was weak. Mark knelt beside her and helped her lean against the wall. She looked at both humans with confusion and fear. Her voice cracked. When she spoke, barely more than a whisper, she said, why did you save me? Mark answered simply, because you were alive. She frowned as if she did not understand. He repeated, you breathe, you live, that is enough reason. She closed her eyes as if holding back tears, then opened them again and whispered, they will come for me. Anna crouched beside her and asked who. The girl swallowed hard and said, my own people. They fear me. They fear what I carry. Mark and Anna exchanged looks. Mark asked, what do you carry? The girl lowered her head and her voice dropped. She said, Memory. Anna tilted her head. Memory of what? The girl hesitated, then whispered. Of truth. Before Mark could ask more, a sharp sound split the air, outside like metal grinding against stone. Both humans froze. Anna rushed to the door, peering through the small slit of glass. Shapes moved in the storm again, tall and dark, they're glowing. Eyes scanning the ground slowly, they were closer than before. Mark whispered, "We must hide her." Anna pointed to a storage panel against the far wall. They moved quickly, lifting the girl carefully and sliding her into the narrow, hollow. Mark wrapped insulation over her, again leaving just enough space for her to breathe. He pressed a finger to his lips. She nodded weakly, understanding. The door shook as something heavy struck it. Snow fell from the ceiling, dusting their helmets. Another strike came louder. The hatch groaned. Anna raised her rifle. Mark drew his sidearm. The hatch burst open. With a scream of tearing metal, the storm poured in behind. Dark armored figures stepping inside, their glowing eyes fixed on the room. One of them spoke. In a voice cold and sharp, "Where is she?" Mark kept his weapon low but ready. He answered, "Who are you looking for?" The figure moved closer, its armor dripping snow, its tall frame blocking the weak light. It repeated, "Where is she?" its voice full of command. Anna stepped forward, her rifle steady. She said, "We are alone. Travelers stranded by storm." The figure tilted its head as if considering, then raised a scanning device. Its beam swept across the room, glowing lines of light, brushing the walls. Mark felt his chest tighten as the beam neared the panel where the girl hid. He stepped forward, deliberately placing himself in its path. The scanner beeped faint, but did not alarm. The figure stared at him long, then turned away. Another armored figure spoke. "She cannot have gone far. The storm would have taken her." Yet the first figure said, "She is near. I feel it." Mark's heart pounded. Sweat ran down his back despite the cold. Anna's finger tightened on her trigger, ready to fight, though she knew they were outnumbered. The figures moved slowly around the room, searching, smashing crates, overturning debris. One came near the panel. Mark's breath caught, then outside a howl echoed through the storm. A signal, maybe a call. The figures paused, listening. Then the leader barked words in a harsh language, and they withdrew, moving out into the white again. The hatch slammed shut behind them. Silence returned, heavy and sharp. Mark rushed to the panel and pulled it open. The girl's eyes were wide with terror, but she was alive. He helped her out. Anna locked the door with what remained of the mechanism, though both knew it would not hold forever. The girl whispered, "They will not stop. They will chase until I am gone." Mark looked at her and said, "Then we will keep you alive." Anna added, "We protect our own now. You are one of us." The girl trembled. She said, "You do not understand. My people fear me because I remember what they want forgotten. My family was part of a council. They kept secrets from the stars. I saw the truth. I spoke it. They marked me as danger and cast me into the storm." Anna touched her shoulder gently and asked what truth. The girl looked at them, her silver eyes shining with pain. She said that humans are not what the galaxy believes, not monsters, not just death whirlers, but something more. My people fear what happens if others learn it. They fear hope. Mark stared at her words, sinking deep. Heater in the station flickered as power ran low, the warmth fading. Anna checked the cell. It would last maybe a few more hours. Mark stood straight, his jaw set. He said, "We cannot stay. They will return stronger. Next time we must move at dawn." The girl's eyes widened. "You will risk your lives for me?" Why? Anna smiled faint and said, "Because we are human, because we do not leave someone to die in the snow." The storm outside howled again, as if angry at their resolve. The three of them sat close through the long night, Mark and Anna on either side of the girl, sharing warmth with her. Again, she trembled less, her breathing stronger, her fear still present, but softened by the shelter of their arms. Mark kept his eyes on the dark hatch, every sound outside feeding his resolve. He whispered to himself over and over, "We keep her alive, we keep her safe, no matter what." The hours dragged until their watches showed dawn, though the sky outside looked the same, gray and full of storm. They gathered their packs, wrapped the girl tighter. Mark lifted her once more, his arms aching but strong. Anna checked her rifle and nodded. Together, they faced the hatch, knowing the hunters were waiting, knowing the storm would not give mercy, yet stepping out anyway, because sometimes survival is not just about living. It is about refusing to let the cold cruelty of the universe decide who deserves to breathe. And as the hatch creaked open and the white storm swallowed them again, the girl looked up at them, with eyes no longer full of only fear, but also a spark of something new, something fragile and bright. Trust. The storm outside was colder than before, the wind sharp enough to cut skin if skin was bare, and snow swirled so thick that shapes vanished only a few steps away. Mark held the alien girl in his arms, her weight still light but heavier now with the knowledge of who hunted her. Anna walked ahead, rifle ready, scanning the haze for movement. Each step forward felt like a test of will. The valley stretched endless, but their goal was a cave system, marked on their maps half a day's march through snow and danger. Girl stirred against Mark's chest, her eyes opening faintly. She whispered, "You should not help me. You will die too." Mark looked down and said, "We already chose to help you, so rest." Anna added without looking back, "Humans do not abandon someone once. We take them." And the girl closed her eyes again, but he could feel her trembling. Hours dragged as they moved through the storm. The snow rose to their knees, and every ridge felt like a wall built to block them. Mark's arms burned, but he would not put her down. He thought of her whisper of hunted, and of her people who feared her memory. He thought of what it meant for a society to cast away one of their own because she spoke truth. The thought only hardened his grip. They reached a frozen river. Its surface cracked with jagged edges. Anna raised her hand to halt. She crouched low, scanning the ice shapes moved in the distance, at first faint, then clearer, tall figures with glowing eyes. The hunters again, their black armor cut against the white storm-like shadows too sharp to belong. Mark and Anna crouched low behind an ice boulder. Anna whispered, "They are tracking us." Mark asked, "Can we go around?" She shook her head. "They cover the valley. We must cross through." The hunters spread out there, devices glowing beams sweeping across the snow. One beam passed close to where Mark crouched. He held his breath. He felt the girl's heartbeat fast against his chest. She whispered, no louder than the wind, "Please do not let them take me." Mark whispered back, "They will not." Suddenly, one of the hunters turned its head their direction, its glowing eyes locking through the storm. It raised a long weapon. Anna fired first. Her rifle cracked against the quiet snow. The blast hit the figure square, knocking it into the ice. The others roared with strange voices and advanced beams, slicing through the storm. Mark shouted, "Run!" Anna laid covering fire as he charged across the ice, carrying the girl. His boots slipped, but he did not fall. He ran with every bit of strength left. The hunters fired beams of energy, striking the ice in bursts, shards flying into the air. Anna fired back, picking them off one by one, but there were too many. One blast struck near Mark. The ice cracked under his boots. He slipped to his knees, clutching the girl tighter. Anna rushed to his side, pulling him up. Together, they stumbled forward, the hunters gaining closer, their heavy steps shaking the ice. They reached the far bank, just as the ice behind them shattered. One hunter fell into the freezing river, its scream echoing through the storm. But others pressed forward. Mark and Anna rushed into the rocks ahead, weaving through jagged cliffs. The hunters followed, relentless. Anna shouted, "The cave is near." Hold on. Mark's breath came heavy, but he refused to stop. The girl clung to him, whispering broken words. Hunted, hunted, over and over, like the echo of her fear. Finally, the dark mouth of the cave appeared through the snow. Anna ran inside, first clearing the space, then motioned Mark in. He staggered inside, laying the girl on a flat stone, her breath quick but steady. Anna sealed the entrance with a block of fallen ice, but they both knew it would not hold long. They had only minutes. The girl opened her eyes fully now, her silver gaze burning with urgency. She said, "You do not understand. My people hunt me because I hold the memory of what they fear. They fear humans because they know the truth. Your kind is more than fighters, more than death worlders. You carry compassion and strength together. They know if the galaxy learns this, their power will fall." Anna knelt close and asked, Why put this burden on you?" The girl whispered, "Because I was born with the gift of memory. My mind cannot forget truths, even if they erase records. I remember, and I spoke it aloud, and for that, they marked me to die." Mark clenched his fists, anger boiling. He said, "Then we will not let them silence you. Anna nodded. "We protect you no matter the cost." The girl stared at them, her lips trembling. She whispered, "Why would you risk everything for me?" Mark answered, "Because that is who we are." The sound of heavy steps echoed into the cave. The hunters had found them, their weapons glowing. Anna took position at the entrance. Mark drew his sidearm, standing beside her, the girl weak but sitting up now, watching with wide eyes. The hunters entered, their tall forms filling the narrow space. The leader stepped forward, its voice like cold steel. It said, "Give her to us and live." Refuse and Mark lifted his weapon and said, "Then we die." Anna raised her rifle. The leader laughed, a sound empty of warmth. It raised its weapon to fire, but before it could, the girl screamed, a sound sharp and filled with power. The walls of the cave shook. Snow fell from the ceiling. The hunters staggered as if struck by invisible force. Her silver eyes blazed. She shouted, "I will not be silent." Hunters faltered, stunned by the wave of energy. Anna fired, hitting one square in the chest. Mark shot another. The cave filled with echoes of blasts and roars. The girl's voice carried again her memory, spilling into the air, a projection of images strange to the humans, but terrifying to the hunters. Visions of their council hiding truths, visions of humanity standing against storms and wars, not just with weapons, but with open hands, saving lives where others would not. The hunters staggered, some fleeing into the storm. Their leader, growling in rage, it lunged forward, but Mark met it head on, firing until the weapon clicked empty. Anna struck with the butt of her rifle. The leader fell to one knee. The girl raised her hand, her silver eyes bright. She whispered, "Enough," and the cave trembled again. The leader stumbled back, retreating with the others, vanishing into the storm. Silence fell heavy, only their breaths filled the air. The girl collapsed, exhausted. Mark caught her before she hit the ground, her body trembling but alive. Anna leaned against the wall, breathing hard, her rifle smoking. Mark looked down at the girl in his arms. She whispered, faint but clear, "They will return, more will come. But now they know humans will not yield." Anna met Mark's eyes, the truth heavy between them. They had won this moment, but the fight was not over still. They had given the girl what no one else would, a chance at life. A chance to speak, a chance to be more than a memory. And as the storm raged outside the cave, the humans held her close, sharing warmth once again, knowing that compassion had already begun to change the story of an entire world. The storm outside howled like a beast, wounded yet not dead. The cave shook from the wind, and snow poured in thin streams through cracks in the ceiling. Mark sat against the stone wall, the alien girl resting in his arms. Her body still weak, but her eyes open, silver light flickering in them. Anna checked the rifle once more, its charge nearly gone. She looked at Mark and said, "They will come back, maybe more, maybe stronger." Mark nodded. He felt the same weight pressing on his chest, but he also felt something else stronger than fear, a fire inside him that no storm could put out. The girl whispered, in a voice soft and fragile, "They will not stop. My memory is dangerous to them. They will hunt until I am gone." Anna crouched beside her and spoke firmly, "Know you are alive, and as long as we breathe, you are not alone." Mark added, "We are humans. We fight storms, we fight wars, but most of all we fight for each other." The girl stared at them, her lips trembling, as if she wanted to believe hours past. The storm did not ease, but the hunters did not return yet. Mark knew they were near, waiting. Anna suggested moving deeper into the cave network. She said, "Maybe we find tunnels, maybe another way out." Mark agreed. They could not stay here forever. He lifted the girl gently, though his arms ached from days of carrying her. Still he did not complain. Anna walked ahead, lighting the path with a small lamp. The cave twisted into long dark corridors, echoing with dripping water and the groan of ice above. They walked for hours through the labyrinth, sometimes crawling through narrow cracks, sometimes stepping across frozen pools. The girl clung to Mark, her voice weak but steady. She whispered stories, fragments of her people, how they feared human compassion, how they painted Deathworlders as monsters to keep others in line. She whispered that she remembered secret meetings where leaders spoke of humans as the one species that could inspire rebellion across the stars. Anna listened in silence, her jaw tight. Mark felt anger rising, but also pride in his kind. At last the tunnel opened into a wide chamber, where light filtered faint from a crack, high above snow glowing pale. They paused there resting. The girl laid on a stone bed. Anna set her rifle beside her and leaned back breathing hard. Mark pressed his forehead against the stone, his strength nearly gone but his spirit unbroken. The girl looked at them and said, "You risk everything for me. I cannot repay this." Mark smiled faint and said, "You repay it by living." Anna added, "By speaking truth." Before they could rest longer, a sound echoed through the tunnel's heavy steps once again. Mark's heart tightened. Anna grabbed her rifle, even with low charge, ready to stand. The girl tried to sit, but Mark pressed her gently down. "Stay safe," he whispered. The shadows at the tunnel mouth grew taller. Hunters appeared again, more than before, filling the chamber. Their leader stepped forward. Its armor cracked from the last battle, yet its glowing eyes burned. It said, "You cannot win. Give her to us now." Mark stepped in front of the girl, weapon raised. Anna stood beside him, their bodies forming a wall between her and the hunters. The leader raised its weapon, aiming at Mark before firing. The girl screamed again, her voice ringing like a bell, shaking the chamber. Ice cracked from the ceiling, chunks falling around the hunters. The force pushed them back. Mark fired his sidearm. Anna fired her rifle. The blasts echoed like thunder. One hunter fell, then another, but more advanced, relentless. The leader roared, charging forward. Mark met it head-on, dodging blasts and striking with every ounce of strength he had. Anna flanked, shooting into the ranks. The chamber became a storm of light and sound. The girl's silver eyes shone brighter. She raised her hand, weak but determined. Memory spilling again, visions of humans saving, not destroying, helping, not ruling. The hunters faltered, some lowering weapons, confusion in their glowing eyes. The truth cut deeper than any bullet. Still the leader pressed forward, striking Mark hard across the chest. He fell to his knees. The girl cried out. Anna rushed to cover him, firing her last shot, the rifle empty. She swung it like a club, striking the leader across the helmet. Sparks flying. The leader staggered, but raised its weapon again. Mark forced himself up, his chest aching. He grabbed the leader's arm and wrestled it down, pushing with every last strength. The girl raised her voice one final time, silver light bursting from her eyes, filling the chamber with blinding glow. The hunters screamed, retreating, stumbling back into the tunnels, their leader growling, but forced away by the storm of memory and light. The chamber shook, collapsing, ice falling, the sound like thunder. Anna pulled Mark back. The girl fainted against him, her body heavy but alive. The hunters fled into the storm outside, leaving only silence broken by the drip of melting ice. When the light faded, Mark sat holding the girl close. Anna knelt beside them, breathing hard, her eyes wide. She whispered, "We survived." Mark nodded, his body aching, every muscle burning, but his spirit unbroken. He looked at the girl in his arms, her eyes fluttering open, once more faint smile on her lips. She whispered, "They cannot silence truth, not now." Mark stroked her hair gently and said, "No, not now. Not ever." The storm outside began to ease, pale light breaking through cracks above the chamber. Dawn, at last, on this frozen world. Anna climbed to the opening above, using rope from her pack. She peered out, the sky clearing blue for the first time since they landed. She shouted down, "The storm is ending." Mark felt warmth in those words. He lifted the girl carefully, climbing with Anna's help. Together they stepped out into the open world. The valley stretched wide and white, but calmer now, sunlight spilling across snow like hope itself. The girl stood weak on her feet, supported by Mark and Anna. She looked at the sun, her silver eyes reflecting light. She whispered, "I thought I would die buried in snow, yet you gave me warmth." Anna squeezed her hand and said, "That is what humans do." Mark added, "Not because it is easy, but because it is right." They began walking across the valley, heading toward the horizon where their ship waited far beyond the ridges, every step slow but steady behind them. The cave collapsed, sealing the battle within. Before them stretched the unknown, yet also a future unbroken. The girl walked between them, leaning on their strength, her trust growing with each step. At last she whispered, "One more word, not hunted this time, but free." Mark and Anna looked at her, then at each other, silent, yet filled with pride. They knew their journey was not just survival. It was proof that in the coldest worlds and the darkest storms, it was not weapons or fear that saved lives. It was the simple act of humans sharing warmth, refusing to abandon hope, and as the three figures moved together across the snow, the sun rising higher above the death world sky, the story reached its end, not with silence, not with loss, but with the warmth of humanity carrying life where none should have survived.